Hey there everybody, it's Mark Crilly. I just want to splice in here at the beginning of the video my unboxing of Brody's Ghost Book 4. Finally got my comp copies in the mail. Go ahead and slice it on open and have a look at this, the latest in the series. As you know, there are going to be 6 altogether. This is Book 4. Oh my goodness, look at that. Represents a lot of work, people. Ooh, look at the intense gaze in Talia's face on the back cover. Let me go ahead and push this. I'm wasting enough time as it is. Get this out of the way, Crilly. Time for you to do the ceremonial laying out of the books. Book 1, Book 2, Book 3, and now Book 4. Thank you so much for sharing in this moment with me. And without further ado, let's get on to the video. Hey there everybody, it's Mark Crilly. I'm back with another How to Draw video. Today we're going to be learning how to draw a mouth, in particular focusing on the lips. And what I've got here is a sort of a grid pattern. It's about 16 centimeters wide, 8 centimeters tall, divided into 8 squares. And, if you find it useful to use a grid like this, by all means do this. Otherwise, just skip it and you can move on to following on with these basic guidelines that I'm going to lay down in time-lapse, but we'll come back and explain some of, just give a few pointers about where the lines go. Alright, so these are the basic guidelines. There really aren't that many lines in this drawing. It's mainly going to be about the shading, the toning, that kind of stuff. But let me point out, if you want to follow along with this, that there's, as you would expect, quite a lot of symmetry to the mouth. It is pretty perfectly balanced. And if you've got this grid in place, you find that the edges of the mouth, which are sort of turned down a little bit when they are relaxed, reach the edges of these boxes, and I sort of lined up the grid to just touch the lower lip. In this case, and this is sort of based on a photograph, the upper lip rises just a little bit above that grid, but it is sort of interesting how it very nearly fits into this perfect box here. And then of course you can use the line in the middle to figure out where you're going to put the teeth. And then one last little thing, whether you can see it or not there, the line of the lower lip actually comes above that horizontal line. And, I just find that grids can be a useful way of observing the line placement. If you look at the little triangle here, these little things can be cues, that you can use to get the lines in just the right place. Well, let's go ahead and erase the guidelines, and I'm going to start getting into the shading. Alright, so I'm going to start with a little bit of real-time shading here, but I do want to sort of divide things up in this video so that I can say something about the polishing phase, which is something that's very important in drawing, but in my videos I tend to, in my attempt to cover everything else, I tend to almost always not have any time left to talk about the polishing phase. So I'm going to try to use this video as the time where I finally start to cover that in some way. But what I'm doing here, you'll notice, is trying to follow along with the imagined surface of the upper lip here, curving my lines so as to, they would be going along with that surface. This is something I was taught back in college as a sort of classic drawing approach. Imagine the surface that you're trying to draw, whatever surface it is, and see if you can get your lines to go along with that so that you're not fighting against it. And basically what I'm going to do at this point is give you some sense of where the darkest areas, rather than carry all the way across. I'm going to maybe sort of focus a little on this one part and make it representative. If the light source is from above, as it generally is, except when you pull out the spooky flashlight and you're telling ghost stories. I'm sorry. I'm not supposed to get crazy until the end of the video, right? But if you've got the light source coming from above, then you're going to have a lot of shading down here on the lower edge of the upper lip. And the really darkest place is going to be way over here at the corner of the mouth. And that will eventually get kind of jet black. But basically, even though I was talking about you want to, follow the direction of the upper lip, I did that for part of it, but now I'm sort of ignoring that and doing more of a circular motion. That's just my approach. I find that, blending different techniques together serves me best. So, yeah, I mean, as long as I've got part of it with that sort of directional approach or surface approach, as I was saying before, like that, then I will allow myself to, blend in a different technique for adding a further layer of shading. Now, what's going to happen eventually with this lip is we're going to start to get into some of the, I don't want to call them imperfections, but something that will lend an air of realism to your drawing. Again, this is based on photographs. Is you will find that the surface of the lip begins to divide into subsections, my favorite word, and you can get away with indicating just a little bit of gaps, or I don't want to call them crevices. That sounds terrible, but they do sort of, as you look at a photograph, a close-up like this one, it does sort of look like the surface of land almost. That it becomes a sort of a landscape that you're trying to do as you zoom really in and start going for the hyper-detailed approach. Now, I'm going to go ahead and cut into time-lapse, sort of finish along with this upper lip, and then maybe come back to talk about some aspects of shading the lower lip. Alright, so I've gone ahead and sort of done a first layer of light shading on the whole upper lip and teeth here, and I just thought I'd stop and point out that even the teeth, and this is not supposed to be a video about the teeth, but even the teeth get some shading because there's a shadow cast by the upper lip. And so if you are trying to do a drawing like this in which the lips are slightly parted and you see the teeth, keep in mind that you don't want those teeth to be absolutely white, or else they'll sort of stand out too much. Otherwise, I think we're ready to move on to the lower lip, and before I go into any time-lapse stuff, I want to sort of show you where I intend to leave a highlight on these lips. And this will go a long way towards making the drawing look more three-dimensional. Of course, make it look more like she's wearing lipstick. And so if you really want to go for that kind of a look, you want to make sure that you get some sort of a highlight here. And it basically stretches across, I'd say, the upper third here. It's obviously a lot closer to the top line of the lower lip. It's getting hard to describe these lines. It's closer to this line than it is to that line. How about that? And the only other thing I want to say about this highlight is that it is, in fact, sort of following a little bit of the contours of the lips. You might note the lines start to curve a little on this side, and then they're curving in the opposite direction over here. That's just because of the curvature of the lip itself. And so leaving this, kind of roping off this area that will remain white, I'm going to go ahead and sort of apply these same shading techniques to the lower lip. Alright, so I think we've got a good, what I would call, first layer of shading here. Very light, very tentative. It's all done with the idea that I'm going to build on top of this. One thing I want to point out here is that there is eventually going to be quite a dark area of shading here below the lip. I noticed that this area gets very delineated, almost to the point where there's, you could say there's a black line along the lower edge of the lip. However, as you get closer to the edges of the mouth, that line, such as it is, really disappears unless you have your the mouth is heavily lipsticked. In which case, that's a different situation, and it's sort of an artificially created line. And similarly up here, you see I'm having this line trail off, and even what you see here in terms of this line, initial guideline that I put in, I'm going to be trying to break that up a little later on, so it's not quite so harsh. But basically what I want to do now is skip on to the Dixon, not the Dixon, don't you know your pencils? Crilly? Get them straight, man. It is the black Prismacolor. How many times have you said that in a video? The black Prismacolor here for doing my darker lines. And a little bit of real time. I'll just do a little bit of real time. I'm going to go in here and start going pretty much jet black here, because I'm confident that this area is going to be absolutely black. This little area at the corner of the mouth. And so kind of fearlessly, I'm going bold here. I don't care. I'm not afraid, man. I'm just going for the jet black. But normally I would hold off on doing the real darkest stuff until the end. Another place where it gets pretty dark is this corner. And interestingly, those two areas of darkness don't absolutely connect. In fact, it gets quite light between at the edge of the lip there. But yeah, you get some darkness there. And then probably in time-lapse, you're going to see me go ahead and do, as I was saying, this darker area down here. But I am kind of anxious to get onto this polishing phase and try to talk about that in some meaningful way at the end of the video. And so let's go ahead and I'll kick it into time-lapse to do some of the darkening bits with the black Prismacolor, and then we'll start to get into the polishing phase. Alright, so we've got the very darkest areas in place, and it's already starting to look a little more real. In fact, some people might consider this done and sort of walk away from it, but really what I want to get into now is, as I said before, this polishing phase, which involves keeping at it and tweaking things and adjusting things. Like, so I noticed when I was studying photographs of lips that you got different areas of, different levels of gray. Not gray, if it was black and white, I guess it would be red or rose-colored or whatever. But there was quite a darker area here at the very bottom of the lower lip. Not all the way, but just in the middle, basically. And that as we got closer up towards that highlight, we could build into yet another kind of shade of gray. And basically, again, I can't do this entire part of the video in time-lapse, but my idea, or without resorting to time-lapse, I can't do it all real-time, that is to say. But what I was hoping to do is sort of do it in a few different stages and keep coming back and talking about the different decisions that I made in terms of, as I say, polishing, adding final touches to complete this illustration. So much of it is based on observation of real life. If you're trying to do an illustration like this, which is sort of aiming towards photorealism of a sort, you do want to study the photographs and look at, where does the shading lie. And maybe you may find it helpful to do, as I did in this video, you find your sort of light area of shading, you go in with your blacks where you see that it's absolutely jet black, and then the rest of the time is devoted to finding those in-between places. One of the interesting things to me is trying to figure out how to suggest this edge of the lower lip as it sort of fades into just the flesh of the face. As I said, without bright red lipstick, like the woman in the Progressive commercial. What is her name? Flo? Without lipstick like that, you are not going to see a line that's connecting these, this part of the face. I could be wrong about that. Let me know if there, maybe people have lips that are a markedly different color from the flesh of their face. But anyway, a number of the photos that I looked a little more natural, that they weren't heavily make-upped. I found that the real demarcation line was down here, and that you had to get much more subtle as you reached the edge. Well, I'm going to go ahead and do another bout of time-lapse here, continue polishing, and then come back and maybe, hopefully 2 more times, offer little notes on what my polishing involved, why I made the choices that I made. Okay, so before I go too much farther, I wanted to come in and sort of talk a little bit about how I added a whole extra layer of shading on the upper lip. I'm going to go back in now with the black Prismacolor to continue to sort of build up these darker areas and have them blend properly into the pencil. And basically, I'm going to keep trading back and forth, I think, between the number 2 pencil, the sort of ordinary writing pencil that most people use, and this black Prismacolor for the very darkest areas. I'm trying, and this is maybe the most challenging part of this illustration, is trying to get in these irregular parts of the lip that, like I said, sort of there's the sort of landscape surface of the upper lip that really this stuff only becomes visible in a close-up photo, but it really makes all the difference in terms of creating something that looks a little bit photoreal like this. I'm trying to very gingerly start to make some decisions about where these lines go, where these little crevices are going to occur. Always going to try to be very cautious in terms of using the black Prismacolor, which does not erase, at least not very well. It's more of a permanent mark. But again, I do feel that in this polishing phase, I'm moving back and forth. I don't sort of like do all the black and then set down the black Prismacolor and say, all right, well, I'm done with that. No, I'm always sort of shifting back and forth, making little choices. Now, one thing that I can maybe start to do here is to grab a pencil eraser and start to erase away a little bit and show how you can indicate some of the texture of the lip and to a certain degree the sort of shimmering quality of the shiny skin of the lip by erasing away. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm actually erasing a little bit away of this line. I don't feel that I want this line to be quite so clear, standing out so much. So, in terms of the polishing phase, I would say I'm still nearer to the beginning of the polishing phase than the end. I feel like this drawing will benefit with patience and gradually building towards the finished product. So let's go ahead and kick it back into time-lapse a little bit more. I'll do a few more things and maybe come back with one last little explanatory break before I do a final phase that truly finishes the illustration. Okay, so we're getting real close to the finishing phase, and just to do something a little different, I'm pulling out a pencil here that I got at an art store where the lead is very hard and is really almost incapable of producing a dark line. Now, I don't usually use pencils like this, but in this case, because I am trying to get a real sort of subtle sense of texture here, I'm pulling this out, and now I know people are going to ask me, what number is that? And I can't even tell. It's just H something or other. What a great artist I am. I don't even know the tools I'm using. You know what I do is I go to the art store and I look in their art and pencil section and I ask the person who runs the place, can you point me towards the sort of harder leads, and then I choose one that's maybe not the very hardest, because those will produce almost no line at all. Get something that is between the middle, the very middle between the soft and hard lead, leaning towards hard. So next time I guess I should focus a little more on the actual number or whatever it is, because people do want to know about these drawing tools. I tend to be of the mind that everyone should just sort of find the tools that work best for them. I kind of don't like the idea of people going out and, spending money buying the tools that work for me, thinking that they're going to make their drawings better, and maybe they won't, and maybe they'll just be frustrated and have wasted money. So that's part of the reason why I don't tend to talk too much about that. But you can see me working towards this sort of gray, this mid-gray, and I would just say in general, this is the stage, this very final polishing stage. This is where you want to maintain your energy and don't get impatient. This is where you can, the longer you spend on it, the better it's going to look. So take a break if you're starting to get bored or what have you. The longer you spend on tweaking things and just adding these little final touches, the better. And again, especially with something that's sort of photoreal like this, let the photo reference be your guide. I'm not just guessing at this stuff. I looked at photographs of parted lips and noticed where the shadows fell, where the darkest parts of the drawing were, where the lightest parts of the drawing were, and that's basically all I can tell you. Because I mean, some people will ask, well, you know, tell us where to put everything, and basically I would say, well, just look at the photographs. They will tell you better than I could ever tell you where the different lines go. But maybe the last thing that I'll do here is to start zeroing in on the edge of this highlight of the lower lip. And I don't want it to get artificially dark just below it, but I do want there to be a clear delineation between the white of the page and the toned area of the lip. So I'm going along here and sort of tightening that up just a little bit, with the idea that I will continue to darken down here, right, so that there isn't this sort of artificial band of darkness just below the highlight, but it rather is just an indication of where the color of the lip is versus this white highlight, which is, of course, the reflected light off of the lower lip. Primarily on the lower lip, I'm finding, as I look at photographs, there's a little bit up here as well. But primarily in terms of highlights, there tends to be a band, a very pronounced band of white highlight across the upper third or so of the lower lip. Not so much across the upper lip. Of course, it all depends on lighting situations and so forth. So, anyway, this is it in terms of narrated stuff. I'm going to go ahead and do the very final polish in time lapse, and then come back to give you some final words. Alright, well, there's my video on drawing the mouth and lips. I feel like I got a little closer to covering the polishing phase in a meaningful way. I'm going to keep working at that, but let me know what you thought. For now, let me go ahead and thank anyone who has supported me by getting any of my books. We got the Brody's Ghost series, book 4, already out, just waiting for my complimentary copies. They're going to be here any day now. Miki Falls, as well as Mastering Manga, my How to Draw book. I really do greatly appreciate anyone who supports me by getting any of those books, or just for watching the videos, subscribing, all that good stuff that you do. But for now, let me go ahead and lay down the pencil right here below the lower lip and end this video by thanking you again for watching it and promising that I will be back with another one real soon.